Why do you think people don't like it?
Because it makes them scared. VAR plays a huge role because, like you said, Kris, it's definitive now. There's no games. It's onside or offside. He gets dribble past 0.04 times. It's best defender in the history of defending territory.
Hello and welcome back to the LFC Transfer YouTube channel and an episode of The Boot Room. Now, we have refurbished this series and we've added a new, definitely not better looking face in me and definitely a worse beard to the show, just to basically pick the brains of Mr. Kris O'Hare, who is currently studying for your UEFA Pro license, mate. Is that
currently, yeah.
Yeah, so hopefully it's all going well, but we get to pick your brains and talk about all things Liverpool when it comes to the tactical element of it. First of all, mate, I don't think we've ever had the chance for you to just sort of introduce yourself and properly just chat about like how you got into coaching, because what was the start of the journey for you?
Yeah, well, start off by saying I was a pretty bang average shit footballer. I really didn't ever feel like I think this applies for a lot of people where they never really feel like they're in an environment where they can succeed. It did help that it wasn't very good as well. Well, that's always a thing to put on there. And throughout my younger years, I always wanted to work with people. That was my primary thing. So I went to uni, studied psychology, did a couple of extra qualifications here and there, and ended up in China. And one day just got asked if I wanted to go along to a coaching session in China, did a few sessions in China, got involved in a school team. And then from there, working in different countries, South Korea, Hong Kong. I played a little and worked a little in Barcelona too, the Catalonian League. And then from there, eventually ended up in a place between Valencia and Barcelona, Castellón. Worked for Castellón, CD Castellón, which is the equivalent of like Sunderland over in the UK. And won a few titles, played against some famous teams like Levante, Valencia, Villarreal along the way. And now I'm at a new team where I'm basically doing my UEFA Pro. Usually when you do UEFA Pro, you need to be in a team where you're sort of given license to learn, license to improve. And we'll see what the future holds. We'll see where we go from there. But to be honest with you, I got into it mostly because I like working with people. I really like working with people. And that makes a big difference.
I think it does massively. And when it comes to something like this, again, you're still working with people. You get to sort of share your views and hopefully spread some tactical knowledge, because I know myself from just watching your videos that you've done already, I've learned so much. So I'm really looking forward to sort of to speaking with you about all things Liverpool tactical wise and making me seem like I know things, which is going to be good. But today, mate, we're talking about a subject that is somewhat divisive, I think, amongst the fan base, or it has been previously, is Liverpool's usage of a high line. It's been criticised previously. I want to start off with the negatives because there is pretty much overwhelmingly positive episode. Why do you think people don't like it?
Because it makes them scared. I think because it scares people, because not everybody and very few people are Virgil Van Dijk. So people are watching this thinking, oh, if I was in that situation, and you're not in that situation, and the reason they're playing a high line is because you're not in that situation. So yeah, I think it scares people. I think that people see a lot of what they deem to be opportunities, but what Van Dijk and Matip, Canate and Gomez basically think, this is in the pocket, this is all day, this is not happening.
Yeah, it's certainly one that has proved a lot of fans are like, oh, why can't we drop 5 yards deeper just to seem a little bit safer? And I think you're right. People would get frightened of chances. I mean, I'm going to take you back to one game. I know we recorded this episode previously, and we wanted to re-record it because we've got some more overlay stuff for you guys. But the Aston Villa 7-2 game, Liverpool absolutely torn apart in that game, and it was sort of an advocate of why you shouldn't have a high line. But with it, in the last 19 games, Liverpool have not conceded in the first half. They've conceded 8 goals in 2022. So going back to that Aston Villa game, do you see why people then wanted it to sort of be faded out of the Liverpool tactical way?
I can see why it scared people. I can see why it frightened people. I can see why people watched that and thought, Jesus Christ. But the problem is with that idea is that what you're trying to do as a coach is you're trying to go for how can I say this? I've learned this in Spanish rather than English. You're trying to go for a large stage, right? So you've got a season like this. And what you're trying to do is judge things over a season, not per game. So I can see why people wanted to change it. However, Man City probably bought Grealish off the back of that game because Grealish was unreal. John McGinn had an incredible game. Aston Villa teared Liverpool apart. It's no doubt about it. They played fantastic. But you don't change your life because one bad thing happens, and that's essentially what we need to remember in coaching is that, you know, Mo Salah might not score for a couple of games, but that doesn't mean he's not going to score.
It's an interesting one, and it's I guess a story of patience, really. So we'll go to the start of when this sort of happened. Virgil Van Dijk signing. Do you think that was the catalyst of Liverpool choosing this method of play?
Yeah, massively. I think it was one of the massive catalysts. I think that in combination with Pep Lijnders rising up within Liverpool and Vitor Macías, him too, they've had a massive influence upon Liverpool because Klopp and his backstage team were predominantly a counter-attacking team. They wanted to attract the opponent and then counter on them at pace. This was when they had the ball, not without the ball. And that's really important to say that high line isn't a tactic without the ball. It's a tactic with the ball. So there have been many times this year when Liverpool played Chelsea, for example, when the block went right back. And that's really important to remember. So what we do when we have the ball is we go high up the pitch in a high block. The idea of a high line is really a misnomer. It's not a high line. It's a high block. There are 6 other guys as well as the 4 at the back who are trying to do stuff. And as this is being recorded, Kris, you said that Toni Kroos is tearing Chelsea apart. Sorry to put a time stamp on this. and Toni Kroos has teared Liverpool apart at times when Liverpool played Madrid. Why? Because if you don't stop that long pass, it doesn't matter who you are, you're going to get torn apart. And that is without doubt one of the secrets of the high line, the high block, that intensity and that pressing within the system to stop the team countering upon you. Suffocation, essentially. But yeah, Virgil van Dijk, we'll go on later on, so stay tuned. I'm going to show you some absolutely ridiculous statistics from Virgil van Dijk to show you just why Liverpool can play this high line.
Yeah. So as well, and there's another catalyst of why I think Liverpool play this way. The introduction of VAR, because offsides become, black and white when it comes to VAR, and you can afford to take more of a chance. Would you agree?
100%. 100%. Humans make errors, and humans still make errors when VAR is involved. However, there are probably less errors. Players are so fast these days. Just a normal fast player, Son from Tottenham, right? He's not the fastest, But I guarantee if me and you were trying to be a linesman and were trying to judge whether he's offside, I'd get it wrong every time. I get it wrong every time. At the weekend, I'm sometimes coaching and I'm like, that's offside, and then it's not. It just happens. So VAR plays a huge role because, like you said, Kris, it's definitive now. There's no games. It's onside or offside. And when you're playing with the smallest of margins, those things make a huge difference.
Mm. So when Liverpool are recruiting a centre-back, and we'll go into sort of the other stuff that you've got prepared for this episode, but when Liverpool are recruiting a centre-back, so the last one we recruited was Ibou Konate, the one sort of astounding physical specimen that he is. He's rapid. Yeah. Now, that's probably something. Speed is something that you mentioned, is something you could say about all 4 Liverpool centre backs. Even Joel Matip, who isn't, rapid, he's still quick. Do you think that was the key role in Liverpool buying a centre back these days, that they've got to be quick to play that high line?
100%. 100%. You can't have a player who can't pick up speed quickly. The whole point of the high line, we're going to go on later on to see how Liverpool's centre-backs don't actually pressure much. So what do I say by that? If you've got 2 guys, and we'll just put them like this just so the viewers can see, and then here you've got the attacker, right? No, we'll go here. Here you've got the attacker. Liverpool's centre-backs, 9 times out of 10, will just go backwards and cover the space and wait for the rest of the team to come. They're not going up to pressure. But that infers that if he's in between, if there's a centre forward in between two central defenders, those central defenders need to keep pace with him. Why? Because offside is it's so piss poor at the moment. You watch, for example, linos, and they will wait until the players had a shot before they put the line up, and you can see Matip and Van Dijk going insane, but they have to make that tackle. No longer can you just say offside and then hope that it happens. You have to play until the whistle. So those vital statistics, that physical specimen that you say is Konate, who quite frankly looks incredible. He looks like a prize fighter. That's so vital, though. I think that those are some of the key things that Liverpool will look for in the future. Physicality, specifically for the position. Do you want a Konate up front? No, you don't. But do you want a Konate at centre-back? Against Burnley, against Leicester, against whoever else? You do. You need that. So, yeah, I think that's the building block of the defence. Athletic players.
Yeah, definitely. So let's go on to some of the videos and the stuff that you've got to show for us. The first video is sort of explaining sort of the group movement. So we'll overlay it here. So just talk us through it, mate, really.
Yeah, okay. So in the first part of the video, we can see in the high line Liverpool's average positions, and within those average positions, you can see is a 4-3-3 or a 4-2-1-3, depending on how they work out. And this is without the ball. The 2 lines are a significance of where Liverpool are on the pitch. As Liverpool move forward, those lines are equally spaced. And what that means is that the spacing between the players is the same. So we can't have a situation where Mane, Firmino, and Salah disappear up the other end of the pitch, because there'll be huge spaces to cover. So what happens is the further up the pitch we go, the higher the defense has to go. Otherwise, the sheer principle of play means there's going to be huge gaps for players to run into. And I think that's what happened with Aston Villa, is there were big gaps when there shouldn't have been. Whether you're Jose Mourinho, Klopp, or Guardiola, a team needs to play within a certain segment of the pitch. And that's what this is representing.
Yeah, so moving on to the next one, is showing the team sort of pushing out. Is this when the team doesn't have the ball, or when the other team has possession? What talk us through this one.
Yeah, well, here we can see a movement between Robertson and Trent, one going forward and one going backward. And that means that at all times they're trying to keep a superiority at the back. But more than anything, the superiority at the back, whether it's Robertson covering or at times Trent, usually Robertson at the moment. If you look at the square in the middle, we can see Fabinho and Thiago in there. Now, if the ball goes to the left, what happens is Henderson and Fabinho come into that space, always forming a 4. If the opposition decide to play 4 in attack, good luck against Liverpool, because you're going to leave huge spaces for Salah, Firmino, and Mane. What they're trying to do is dominate the center of the pitch so that they're always the first to the ball. So they're always going to get the ball first. And that's front foot defending at its very best. Fabinho and Henderson are tasked with the idea of robbing the ball before they can play it long behind Van Dijk and Matty. And if it goes the other way as well, we can see Thiago and Fabinho covering. The last part of the video, we can see what happens if Mane presses, for example, and then he's played around, how it's the responsibility of one of the central midfielders to then go up and stop that long ball, whether it's Thiago, Fabinho, or Henderson. And Henderson will do these runs often where he'll just run towards the player with the ball. And it looks like it's nothing. It looks a little strange. But what he's trying to do is make that player think twice next time he has to turn. Because in the top leagues, if a player can turn and has space, it doesn't matter. They're going to do you a lot of damage. So it's really about stopping those long balls.
Yeah, definitely. It's so fascinating, really. Everything, every intricate movement does mean something.
Yeah.
And it's just fascinating. I'm gonna go sort of from top to bottom, really, and like I'll ask you to what their role sort of is and their influence in the high line. I mean, I'm gonna start with the goalkeeper because it's so important that Liverpool recruited a goalkeeper that is so good at accelerating from his starting position. Am I right?
Yeah, you can be more right. You can be more right. The ability, what happens in a game usually is that you'll have 1 or 2 balls behind the defense, and against certain teams will play behind your defense. Now, they're not always trying to score, but what they're sometimes trying to do is just make your defense think twice so they go back 5 yards. Your defense goes back 5 yards, more space in the middle. Simple logical conclusion. But if they play a ball over the top and your goalkeeper just comes up, does a Rabona and then walks away does a Rabona and passes it to your left back, they're not going to do it again. We seen the other night when Liverpool played Benfica. Soon as they pressed Alisson, he did a half turn, got away from the player, and then they didn't press him again. They didn't bother. And it's more of a sort of having a Rottweiler that is actually really, really cute. Nobody's going to rob your home, but you're not going to tell anyone that he's not dangerous.
That's amazing. And also his shot stopping ability, which obviously I personally, it's one of my biggest vendettas is when people say a goalkeeper's a good shot stopper, because that is his job. But Alisson's one-on-one ability, I think, is a real reason why this high line is successful, because when it does get beaten, maybe once a game, maybe once every couple of games, he's always there to bail you out.
Yeah. Couldn't have said it better, mate. Couldn't have said it better. Yeah. I mean, his one-on-one ability is I genuinely think it's the best I've ever seen in the Premier League. I'd say that reflexes, De Gea's been incredible, but one-on-one, I've not seen as many goalkeepers manipulate the opposition like Alisson does. He has the ability to make the player sort of, without saying it too complicated, just shit himself. Just makes the player get scared and frightened in the moment, and then the player usually inevitably loses composure.
Yeah, well, I'm sure we'll do more podcasts on specific players, because I think that'd be really interesting in seeing their roles. Talking about the centre backs, I want to go in depth on Virgil Van Dijk, because obviously we said earlier that he was probably one of the biggest catalysts in Liverpool choosing this system. But how astounding are his statistics in the way that he just stands above everyone else?
Yeah, I mean, it's really difficult to explain just how good his statistics are. If we pull these up now, we can see that Virgil van Dijk compared to the supposed best defenders in the world. We've got PK, Upamecano, Marquinhos, Varane, and Maguire. Maguire's in there just because. Right. Okay. So what we're trying to look at here is Van Dijk's role within the team. Now that's really important when we're talking about players. People often say, oh, he doesn't pass forward enough, and then it's like, well, is it his role to pass forward? Because if he is a false nine, for example, like Firmino, a lot of his passes are backwards to then play in behind. So passes forwards don't really make any sense. But if we look here with Van Dijk, we can see that his tackle percentage success is 88.9, and the next highest is PK of 58.3. So 88% of the time, Van Dijk is going to get the ball off the player who's trying to get past him. And maybe more because we don't know all of the situations and the variables. That's outstanding. He gets dribble past 0.04 times. It's best defender in the history of defending territory. And I don't know if Baresi or Maldini would fare better. I don't know. And I think it's difficult to say that. But in modern times, I think he might be the best defender that's ever existed, because these are numbers that make people build statues about you outside stadiums. It's incredible.
Yeah, honestly, to see him standing out so far and away above so many of the world's best defenders, it's stuff that we all know because and we go to watch him every week, and we're lucky enough to watch him every week. But it also shows the impact that not having him had on Liverpool last season.
Yeah. I imagine the next, if we're realistic, Canate's will be around 50, 60, or if we look at Gomez, 50, 60, to lose a defender of Van Dijk's ilk, it's irreplaceable. It's a horrible word to say when you're talking about footballers, but he is irreplaceable. He's an absolute mammoth. He's everything.
Absolutely. Let's talk about Fabinho, because I think he's someone who doesn't really get enough credit for where he stands in world football, in his position.
Yeah.
But what's his role in the higher line, and how important is he?
So Fabinho's role is, he's often referred to El Faro, the lighthouse, but this is more of a it's sort of a football joke. It's like something that people say within the football world. But really what Fabinho's job without the ball is to stop attacks happening. He's very much a sort of Fernandinho mold player where he will press the players before they can turn. His job predominantly is to stop teams turning. So it doesn't matter if the left back has the ball on the opposite team. He's looking right in the middle at that centre attacking midfielder, and he's looking at him and he's thinking, are you going to turn? If the centre attacking midfielder runs past him, it doesn't matter. But if the centre attacking midfielder has the ball in his section of the pitch, he's trying to stop him turning before it even happens. He was bought predominantly for his front foot defending, and as we can see in these pictures, his ability in the first one to get immediately close to the player and stop this sort of attack before it even happens. There's a tackle with Arsenal, for example. He's right in there before the player can get up ahead of steam. Big tackle, right in the mix on Andre Gomez against Everton. Right in the tackle. He is essentially what you could have described 20 years ago as a central defender stopper. He's doing that job, but at central defensive midfield. And he does it incredibly.
Yeah, exactly. He is. I think he's probably, from a fan's perspective, he's getting more and more recognised now as
Yeah,
one of the best in his roles, and it helps as well. He's not just a stopper; he's also a very good footballer. I think it would do him. He used to play a right back, didn't he, as well for Monaco? So
exactly.
he's got some nous.
He's Brazilian. I mean,
Exactly. And most Brazilians, as we know, talking about our forwards, have some flair. But talking about the central midfielders, I would just want to get you to elaborate on sort of the splitting. So when they go wide,
okay.
why do they do that?
It's to create superiority on the wing mainly.
Mm,
A lot of football, a lot of modern day football isn't about playing a perfect pass. Because if you look at Conor Gallagher, for example, or we look at who else is a very good attacking midfielder? If we look at, so let's just go with Conor Gallagher. Conor Gallagher has a fantastic ability of finding a pass, or Mason Mount, fantastic ability of finding a pass. But can they do that if they're not given the space? The reason that the mainly Henderson on the right or Elliott when he plays that position, the reason they pull out wide is because by doing that they create space for other players, and the defender, for example, in the case of the right back, he has to make a decision. Do I go and press Elliott and leave a space for Salah behind, or do I stay with Elliott and leave Salah with a ball? And then what happens, of course, is if teams move over to compensate, there's a space down the other wing. So, the other day we saw massive instances of Benfica trying to compensate, trying to press the right-hand side. And then Liverpool escaped that press, and Trent Alexander-Arnold launched the ball behind, and then the defense isn't in the right place. So what they're trying to do is manipulate the opponent constantly. But you can only do that if you've got two people in the middle to control things. And that's why we really don't play a 4-3-3 anymore.
yeah. That's another podcast, mate. That's a whole nother one. But yeah, what's the forwards role? Because Liverpool have been often credited with defending from the front.
Yeah.
And with the high block, they certainly have a lot of work to do in order to protect those behind them.
Yeah. To tell you the truth, the forwards job, from what I can see at least, changes a lot. Now, there's three different types of pressing. You've got the pressing where you go and rob the ball, right? You immediately go to the ball. You've got pressing where you block the pass, and then pressing where you block the space. Now, they might seem similar, block the pass and block the space. But if I've got three forwards and they're blocking the space to the middle rather than the pass, and what they're saying is, please play to the wing, what you can do is you can just move him a little bit more forward and say, the left wing is completely blocked. And then they have to play to the right back, for example. And then maybe the right back isn't very good on the ball. No names, Mr. Wan-Bissaka. and that essentially is directional as well. So depending on the game, they're really trying to go in a different way. Against Inter Milan, for example, Liverpool tried to rob the ball and almost did so successfully quite a few times. But that's what Inter Milan wanted at the same time. So it really depends on the moment. Although, in principle, their job is to block the center of the pitch and direct play in whatever way that they deem will be more beneficial for the team.
Yeah. So it truly is an 11-man line,
Oh, yeah.
not just your four.
Yeah.
But
Most
yeah,
definitely.
it's really interesting. Before we finish, anything else you want to cover within this subject area?
Regarding the high block, high line, I would say if Liverpool don't replace Van Dijk in the next 3 to 4 years, because he will trail off after 4 years.
Wow, will he? Like it That's a whole new thing. I'm not going to get into it, but will he? Like, that's the thing. He's that good.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. All right, we'll do this podcast again in 5 years, or in 10 years' time, and Van Dijk will still be covering sprinters.
I certainly hope so. Wouldn't mind that at all. But yeah, we'll finish it there. Massive thanks to Kris. We'll be doing this either once a week or once a fortnight, depending on his schedule, because he's very, very, very busy studying for that UEFA Pro. But the more knowledge we get, the more knowledge we benefit from. Make sure you subscribe to the channel as well. There's so much more amazing content coming out without our two ugly mugs on it. So make sure to go and get onto that. And we'll see you in the next episode of The Boot Room. See you later.
Yeah.